So I wanted to update you guys on the status of the Atari 2600 composite video mod. It's been a while since I last visited this, so I figured it's time for an update. So I did some extensive research to try and figure out why I'm having some issues with my mod. For those of you who don't remember, the issue I'm having is this little rolling bar of discoloration that just scrolls from the bottom to top of the screen. Almost looks like a sync issue between the camera and recording a television screen, except you can see it in person, so it's not that. And some forums have suggested removing additional resistors, capacitors. Someone suggested removing the RF modulator altogether. Some other people said, try a different mod. So, I didn't want to try a different mod just yet. I wanted to use the one that I already had. So I went ahead and dug further and further into it, and it seems like the consensus is that there are potentially additional resistors and capacitors to remove that this specific mod does not suggest. So that's what I'm going to be doing, and I've got various video clips that I've recorded over the past few months where I've been trying to get the mod working, and so things are going to be a little bit disconjointed in terms of flow, and I'm going to have some rough edits and cuts and things like that. I'm going to try to flow them as easily as possible, but because of the scattering of the data that I have, I'm just going to make one final video on this and to show you guys whether or not this will actually work. So let's get started. So here I'm just going to remove the RF modulator. I'm going to apply some fresh solder to the solder joints to make it easier to remove, and then just take some solder wick to suck up as much of it as I can, and then I'll back it up with a solder pump that I have. And here I'm just going to fill in these solder points here just for the heck of it. I don't know, it's not necessary, but I'm going to do it anyway. You can see a lot better now than the last videos. The poor desoldering job I did removing the original connector that connected to the RF modulator. I ended up pulling part of the traces, but I was able to scrape away a little more and reattach it. But other than that, I mean, that's basically it. So it seems that the composite video and audio, I guess I would assume, would travel all through this from the main board and would then come into the RF modulator, which would combine the audio and the video and output it via standard RF. And in this case, what the mod does is, it bypasses that. It removes the RF modulator's ability to process the video. Now it still processes the audio, and this is the thing that I have not been able to figure out, is how the audio got to the RF modulator. Because most of the mods have you tapping into the audio on another part of the board. Down here, near what was R208, actually, take that back, you tap it off of C210, because R208 is right above it. And I'm sure if I had the patience, I could trace everything out. It's possible that this is already combined audio video, and that's why I'm getting that weird scrolling effect. Because all other revisions of this control board have the audio split off. There's audio, video, ground, +5, and I think there's another ground. I think it's 5-pin. It might be 4-pin, but I think it's a 5-pin connector. So it's possible that audio is already getting combined somewhere on this board and getting sent over here, and if that's the case, I'm not going to know how to figure that one out. So for the rest of this, I just try to trace everything out, see if I can determine if and where the audio and the video are combined, but I really don't get anywhere with that. And that's when I decided to go revisit some forum posts, tweak my search terms around a little bit just to see if I can find any additional information. as I've said in the previous videos, I've only found one post regarding the switchboard that I have that only has the 3-pin connector that goes to the RF modulator. Every other one, you know, would show a 4 or 5-pin connector, so it's got to be mixed on the board somewhere. And so I wanted to do some more digging, and that's where I ultimately discovered that there may be some additional resistors and capacitors to remove or replace. Okay, I'm going to try to give it one more stab at getting the composite mod working. Well, not one more, I'll probably do a few more after this, but one thing that I discovered on a mod, regarding a mod on a forum, had to do with the PAL version, but whatever. There were a few people where they were saying that R209 is partly what's responsible for combining the audio and the video into the RF adapter. And I kind of suspect that the scrolling bar that I'm getting has to do with the fact that there is still an audio signal going to the video signal, especially since on the switchboard where the RF modulator was attached to, there were only 3 connections. Again, there was one for video, ground, and power, 5 volts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to desolder just one of the leads and see what happens. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just put a little bit of flux just on one of the leads. I'm not going to remove it completely. I'm just going to let it hang so I can test it real quick, because if it doesn't do it, I want to reattach it and I don't want to have to solder both ends. So what we'll do is get my fan going here so that I don't get the fumes completely in my face. So you might hear a little bit of a fan noise. Hopefully the furnace doesn't kick in. It's still a little chilly out for some reason. So let's put a little bit of fresh solder down just to make it easier. It's a little bumpy, so it's hard to get. There. So it should be this via here. Let's see if I can see anything with the brighter light here. So it should be this one here. So let me add a little bit of fresh solder to this as well. Not gonna hurt anything. And I guess technically all I should need to do is grab some tweezers and didn't tear off any traces or pads or anything. So that's disconnected now. So what I'm going to do is do a basic connection of everything and we'll see if we can get it going. That'll be easy to reattach if I have to. So the part of the channels you guys probably don't love watching, all the tediousness of it, right? But this is what it's like. Of course, it's also possible I have to move every component and not just one at a time to see if there's any results, which will end up being annoying, but now I get no video at all, so 209 has to stay. And here I just proceed to reattach the capacitor and try to remove other components to try and narrow down further what could be causing that video issue. But as you'll see soon, I'm going to be getting a slightly different issue. Well, you'll hear it because I don't have the screen on, but let's continue.
The other odd thing is the game starts right away instead of, having to have to press the button or anything. That's kind of odd.
And here I'm going to attempt to try to tone out some of the components I removed and some traces to try and see if I can figure out if there's contact being made or if there isn't contact being made where it shouldn't be.
No video, but now I have to hit the button to start, so... Oh, it's this ribbon cable. I wonder if that was the problem the whole time. It's this ribbon cable that's failing. Huh. It'd really suck if it was the whole problem. All that time wasted. Problem is you can't just buy these ribbon cables anywhere, can you? I mean, I probably could, but I don't know if I've got... I wonder if DuPont connectors would work with everything else so far. I do have one of the pins from a DuPont connector. Let's see. No, see, their DuPont connector pins are squarish, roundish in shape, whereas this is rectangular in shape. Now, I mean, I could probably force it in, but once it's in there, it ain't coming out. Let's take a look at the cable itself and see.
And here I just attempt to try and tone out the ribbon cable itself, and then I'm attempting to try to tone out the connectors using the ribbon cable to try to see where the possible break could be.
3 is fine. 2 is not. Is there anything odd about 2? No, looks like it's fine. Could it be the connector though? What can I do to test? So it could be the ribbon. And this is just a twist tie. So there's some...
I should note that Atari had this problem even back in the day and suggested replacing the ribbon cable. They released a updated ribbon that was made out of Mylar. Unfortunately, you had to replace the connector on one of the boards, as on one end it was male and the other end it was female. And so that, was a known issue even back in the 80s. Now I'm basically going through trying to see if I can see anything that's obvious in the cable, but there isn't. And at this point, this cable is just not going to be salvageable. So I'm trying to come up with some ideas that don't require a whole lot of work, but there really aren't going to be. So
replace them with these header pins. As long as the spacing is identical, and they are, I would remove both connectors, one on each board, and do that. Because yeah, otherwise they do line up perfectly, so that would be 2.54 millimeter don't remember the exact distance. I think one is like 1.25 if you have a smaller header, then there's 2.54, something like that. So I have that as an option. I don't necessarily like that option, but and I could probably order a replacement ribbon cable.
So go on and guess what I did. I went ahead and just soldered on some header pins and just used some DuPont cables to reconnect everything. Now I should note that the DuPont cables are significantly longer than the original ribbon, and I could trim them down and splice them together, but I'm going to come up with a different solution. But I wanted to just show off what I did. Now let's switch to a video of everything seemingly working perfectly. So you may have noticed that I have everything already wired up with the TRS jack and everything. I'm going to go ahead and show you a brief video clip of getting that set up, just so you know how I went about doing it. And then we'll wrap this whole really long, really frustrating project up.
Okay, so I think I'm finally ready to hopefully finish this Atari 2600 composite mod. I have these, TRS jacks, and I have a TRS cable. Actually, I had a different cable, but the tip was too long, and every time I plugged it in, it would knock out this plastic piece, which is fine, but then it wouldn't make contact with anything. So I ordered a different one, tested all the connections, figured out the pinouts, and this is labeled as 1, 2, 3, and 4. I don't know if it's going to show up well on camera or not, but it's 1, 2, 3, and 4, and they basically correspond to ground, right audio, left audio, and video. Now obviously these are going to be combined, so that doesn't matter so much, but definitely had to figure out 3 out of the 4. So we're going to just solder on one of these DuPont connectors so that I can reattach them to the actual board, composite mod board itself. Make it easy. The reason I want to go with this option is because it's going to be the simplest one. Obviously, any one of these breakout cables are going to have to be identical in terms of pinout, or you'll have to change this. But then again, if you figure out, let's say that the one you end up buying, this is audio and this is video or whatever, you just crisscross the AV cables themselves. As you can see, this one fits nicely. The little plastic plug over here doesn't pop out. All should be good. So, you just have to connect each one, and that's it. There. So one was ground. So I'm just going to take that, bend it around, and solder it. And then jumper 2 and 3 together. In fact, I wonder if the pin is long enough to be able to extend through both holes if I bend it. It is. So that'll make things easier. And then obviously there's video, and it goes into pin 4, and that's all there is to it. So we're going to probably get that going, except I need something to hold this jack, and I still don't have helping hands, and I keep forgetting to order them. Every time I'm at Amazon, I look and I just don't think of ordering them. I'm going to use some of this Loctite Funtac stuff that I've seen other people use. It's like chewing gum, almost. Hopefully that'll be enough to hold it in place. But we'll see. Not quite sure. So let's see. Stick this down. Stick that down. That might be strong enough. I'm also going to need a small set of those pliers to do some bending. Pretty sure I've got them in here somewhere. Should see where one is. There it is. It just goes 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's perfect. turn on my little homemade vent fan here. I had a little bit of noise, but not much I can do about that. First things first. Try that in there. I can't get this bent back. If I can't get it bent back, I'll bend it enough, and then I can always trim off any excess. Why do I have this tip on? That's too large. Oh, I don't really feel like changing them now. I have to wait for this to cool off, and it's just going to be problematic. So we'll wing it. Strong connection. Strong enough, I should say. Although, thinking about it now, I probably should have had it bent more this way. Let me heat it back up and see if I can't correct that. Refill that. Oh, melted a little bit, that's fine, as long as there's a connection. Well, come to think of it, are these... No, they're not, so can't do that way, which is fine. But for audio, 2 and 3 will work as long as I can feed this. Let's see. So about halfway. That's pretty secure. And then obviously the last one, number 4, is going to be video. I have plenty of these jacks if I screw it up. So, make sure. And there may be better ways to do this, maybe more efficient ways, maybe more preferred ways, but this is how I'm doing it, and I'm okay with that. Work for me. Probably not the greatest soldering job in the world, but definitely not going to win any awards. So that's good. Now, let's check. Can I check continuity? Should be able to. So, hard to play and hold a camera at the same time. But as you can see, there's no rolling color bar that's just showing up in the middle, so there might be some additional mods I can do to clean up the interference patterns a little bit. Maybe it's, C209 or R222. But I'm just happy with that rolling bar that's not there. Still not as clean of a signal as I expect it to be compared to RF, but probably better overall. And again, this is an older TV. This is effectively a Dell monitor with a TV tuner built in. Should probably try it on a more standard television. If I ever get myself a CRT, I'll definitely test it on there.
And well, that's basically it. I didn't record any additional video footage because, to be perfectly honest with you, I was kind of just done with this overall project. So I just took some quick photos that I'm going to show off here and how I ended up doing all the connectors. I put a little bit of electrical tape on the connector that's on the switchboard just because of the fact that it's going to have to end up being bent to fit in the case, and I didn't want there to be any potential shorts. There aren't, as you can see kind of here in this next photo, but just to kind of play it safe. Plus it effectively made it one connector. So that's it. If you liked this video, please hit the thumbs up. Feel free to subscribe if you haven't yet. And if you didn't like the video, please hit the thumbs down, but leave a comment below as to why, so I could try to make improvements in future videos. Thanks all, and I'll catch you later.